Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be living and dating in the present moment. I've got two emails that I'm going to go through with you today. And before we get into the first one, I got a quote that I wrote in this topic that I'm going to go through with you. And I pay a lot of attention to sports. One of the books that I'm reading right now is actually Phil Jackson's book called 11 Rings. And before that, I read Pat Riley's book called The Winner Within, which both of these are really great books. And because I coach a lot of professional athletes, and one of the things that I end up talking with any athlete that I work with invariably is the importance of staying in the present moment. In other words, staying focused on the task at hand, because especially in sports, if a team or some players or all the players on a team get pissed off about a call from the referee that didn't go their way, what happens is now they're focused in the past and they're no longer focused on what they need to do right now. And Pat Riley's book, he was talking about some games. There was a championship or playoff series that his team ended up losing because there was a call that didn't go their way, and everybody in the team got so bent out of shape about that bad call that the game just completely got away from them. In other words, they got out of the present moment. They were focused on what happened in the past instead of focusing on what they needed to do right now. And some of the greatest coaches that have coached, especially in basketball and NBA, you might hear them on the sidelines sometimes just saying, next play, next play. And that is just a reminder to get focused on the play at hand right now. You can't do anything about what just happened or that call that went against you. You got to focus on what you need to do right now in the present moment. And it's a really powerful thing to understand and to focus on, but it's also very hard to do and to stay consistently focused in the present moment, because most people, our thoughts tend to be focused on what happened in the past or what may or may not happen in the future, especially like when it comes to the dating world. We become fearful of all the things that didn't work out in the past, or why it'll probably won't be any different this time around. Or if you're dating somebody and you're worried about when it's going to become serious, when sex is going to happen, when's the right time to go for the kiss, when's the right time to propose, how long you should be dating for, why you're not spending more time together, when are you going to start spending more time together. It completely takes you out of the present moment, and when that happens, then you get into a fearful state. You start worrying about what may or may not happen in the future. And if you're on a date, it's going to cause things to become awkward and weird. The woman is going to be able to tell that you, or at least your mind, is somewhere else. Instead of just hanging out, having fun, and hooking up, you're thinking about what may or may not happen in the future. You get into a fearful state, and you start doing and saying things that literally cause to manifest the thing that you're trying to avoid in the first place, which obviously ultimately is rejection when it comes to dating. It's the same thing like with your career. If you get focused on the fact that you didn't get that promotion you wanted and you get all butthurt about it, and for the next 2 or 3 months you go into work every day pissed off at your boss or that other person that got the job offer over you or the promotion over you, you start letting your current work slip, and then all of a sudden you find that you're out of a job, because you let that previous moment diminish you permanently. So let's go ahead. I'm going to read this quote to you that I wrote. And it says, it's always best to live your life focused on the present moment and what you need to do right now. Why? You can't do anything about the past, and the future is not here yet. Most people's minds tend to be occupied with thoughts about their past or what may or may not happen in the future. When you're not focused on the present moment and what actions you need to take right now to create the future you want, you create a vibration of uncertainty, inaction, procrastination, fear, doubt, mistakes, and worry. Just like professional athletes can suddenly lose a game they were winning when they shift their focus to what just happened or what may or may not happen in the future, instead of staying focused on the actions that they need to take right now, your life, relationships, career, business, health, and things that are most important to you can also unravel and get off track in a very short period of time. I was reading, one of the things I remember reading this morning about Phil Jackson's book, 11 Rings, he was talking about the former Lakers coach and general manager in the 1960s, early 1970s, Red Albert, I can't pronounce his name. But what he used to do to try to intimidate the other team is like when he felt like the game was in hand and they were going to win, he'd literally light up a cigar. And sometimes that would totally psych the other team out because like he's lighting up a cigar. He believes that the game is already won and we've lost. And so literally that would have an impact on some teams when he was playing them because he wouldn't pull out his cigar unless he thought he was going to win. And Phil Jackson was talking about a game that they were playing. I think it was a finals game that they were playing, and he pulled out the cigar in addition to some other things that he had done, which was like sticking him in a crappy janitor's closet for a locker room, and so everybody had to duck when they were in there. He turned the heat up to like 100 degrees, and the windows were not openable, so they were like miserable, and it just fucking pissed him off. And they ended up beating the Celtics. I think it was like this 71-72 season, if I remember right. But it's just fascinating, just a little mind game like that, because he was one of the great coaches to ever play the game. Not only Phil Jackson, but Red. And it's just amazing how a little subtle thing like lighting up a cigar causes the other team to totally get out of the present moment and what they need to do right now, and they end up losing the game. It had a direct impact on the game. So let's get into the first guy's email. He says, "Hey Corey, first I'd like to thank you for your work. It's truly made a difference. I was wondering if you could shed some light on this situation. I started dating this girl very recently. I made some stupid mistakes right from the get-go. I was texting too much, revealing feelings too soon," and he puts in parentheses, "alcohol-induced, unfortunately." So you're drunk dialing her. And you got to think about, well, what's causing you to reach out? Because not every time you get under the influence of alcohol, you're going to reach out and do and say things that are stupid. But if you're in a fearful state already and you're worried about what may or may not happen in the future, and then you get a little bit of alcohol, and that fear gets heightened, and then it causes you to take actions that literally bring about what you fear. He said, "I was spending too much time with her right away, etc. Naturally, she started to then display signs of disinterest. She started texting less, she made fewer plans with me, and engaged physically less. I expected all of this after making silly mistakes, so it was not a huge surprise. I am, however, noticing that her words are completely opposite from her actions. Despite her actions of disinterest, she has made long-term plans with me. She's invited me to weddings and even invited me to meet her family. I find this all very confusing because on the one hand, she's becoming much less engaging with me, but on the other hand, she's basically taking things to another level. Part of your problem is you're not living in the present moment. You're worried about what all this means. Because you see that she's spending less and less time with you. That's what she's presently doing. That's what really matters. And then you're looking at the fact that she wants you to meet her family, or maybe she's made plans. I guess if you're going to a wedding, then you're definitely going to probably meet other members of her family. But you got to realize she may cancel those plans with you in the future. And a lot of guys make the mistake. They go, "Oh, well, we're going to be going to a wedding, so everything's great. It's okay if I pursue a little bit more, I call a little bit more." Maybe she's just going through a little bit of a phase. Because the bottom line is you got to look at what's she doing right now. She's texting you less. She's calling you less. So what should that cause you to do? You should be backing off as well. You should notice how much effort she's putting in. And so as she puts in less and less effort, it's like you want to match and mirror that effort. What you ideally want is you want her making more of the effort than you are, because women are naturally, instinctively going to call and text and pursue more, just as part of feminine energy, being all about bonding, connecting, relationships, things of that nature. So typically guys that get themselves in this trouble is the woman starts backing up because her attraction level is dropping. And the guy thinks, well, if I call her more and I text her more, she's going to want to see me more. That's a logical conclusion to come to. However, the reason she's backing off is because she's not as interested or as excited about spending time with you. So the worst thing you can do is start being overeager and trying to spend more time. In essence, it's trying to force things. Because you see that she's backing away, and you calling more and pursuing more is really about trying to force her to do something because what's going on? You're afraid of a future event. The future event being that she ditches you and doesn't want to see you anymore, and it never turns into a relationship or a boyfriend-girlfriend type thing. So, like I said, when she's backing off, you should be backing off. Worst thing you can do, because you start to pursue more, what will happen is she'll actually start to pursue less and less. In essence, you become the pursuer. You start to act like the woman. And therefore, you start calling. Within a few short weeks, you're doing all the calling, all the texting, all the pursuing, and she always seems to be busy. I've done countless emails and countless videos over the years where guys did exactly that, and it has the opposite desired effect. Even when the woman says, I want you to pursue me, I want you to call me more, and you do that, and she never seems to find time to spend with you. Remember, the phone is for setting dates, not chit-chatting. Guys, you get in the habit of chit-chatting and talking and texting and Snapchat and all those things, and what ends up happening is you literally talk her out of spending time with you. You become her therapist on the phone, and especially if you're not really serious about one another and she's got 2 or 3 other guys in her life, she's going to be naturally drawn to the guy who she wonders about the most, the guy who is the most mysterious, the guy who appears to be the strongest. Because when she backs off and another guy starts to pursue more, he's being diminished emotionally and self-control wise because he doesn't feel comfortable that she would willingly choose him, even if there are other guys in the picture. And when a woman feels that and notices that, the guy is basically acting as if he doesn't deserve her, as if he's not worthy. And she's going to respond accordingly, because now you're no longer presenting yourself as a high value, a high status male who has lots of choices, lots of options, and as a catch. Now you're acting like she's the only girl that's ever paid any attention to you. And a woman knows that if other girls don't like you, then maybe you're really not that great of a catch. So he says, I'm currently on the fence of whether to break things off so I can approach other women, or whether to see if I can make things work with her. Again, you're all worried about what may or may not happen in the future. If you aren't exclusive, let's see, he didn't really say much. It doesn't sound like you guys were exclusive, but it's like in your mind you think you need to act as if you're exclusive. It sounded like you started dating, things got a little hot and heavy, and then you started gushing your feelings, and now she's backed off. Well, if you had other options, you should be going out with them and continuing to date. Because if you guys aren't exclusive and she hasn't brought that up, more than likely she's probably spending her time with some of the other guys that are in her life. And as far as you breaking things off, that's you just saying, oh, well, I'm going to get out of this first before I get my heart broken. That's all fear-based actions. And that's not what you want anyways. You wouldn't have taken the time to write an email to me if you didn't care about this girl. The real reason you wrote is you wanted to be able to turn things around. So breaking it off, that's not going to get you what you want. Just stop calling her. Stop texting her. Wait to hear from her. And then when you do, just be like, hey, babe, great to hear from you. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together next? And then you simply make your next date. It's just that little bit of backing off where she realizes that she hasn't heard from you in a couple days, you're not over pursuing her. Then she reaches out to see where things are with you. And then you just make the next date. And then get the hell off the phone. Stop chit-chatting, stop drunk calling her. He says, her words are encouraging me. However, I fear she's only keeping me around until someone else comes along. Currently, I'm giving her space, allowing her to initiate plans with me, and I'm very careful to only show as much interest towards her as she is showing to me. What would you advise that I do? He says, I would like her to express more interest, but if it is over, I am more than willing to move on to other women. Just the fact that you say, but if it's over, you're all worried about trying to get some clarity. Does she care about me? Does she not care about me? Just be in the present moment. Go about your life. Stop. You're being neurotic. Wait to hear from her. When you do, just simply make the next date. Stop trying to focus on whether it's a relationship or not, or whether you're going to see her 2 months from now, or whether you're actually going to end up going to the wedding. Don't worry about that shit. She invited you. think from the end. Just assume, of course, you're going to be her date. And if she changes her mind, who fucking cares? Have some other options. Go out with some other women. He says, is she testing me? What's going on here? What's going on here is you're too focused on the future. You're not living in the present moment. You're worried about what may or may not happen in the future. And therefore, all of your actions and your words and the tone of your voice, it's communicating unworthiness. It's communicating that you're fearful it's not going to work out. Like I said, just chill out, dude. Go get some hobbies. Go hang out with your buddies. Go out on dates with some other women. And get your mind off this girl, because you're just totally focused on her and you're not living in the present moment. You hear from her, you make a date. And when you're on the date, hang out, have fun, hook up. If she texts you in between dates, respond a little while later, maybe a couple hours later. Just say, hey, got your message. Looking forward to seeing you Wednesday night. We can't chat right now. We can talk about it then over dinner or whatever it happens to be. So let's jump into the second guy's email. He says, hey, Corey, I've been living with my girlfriend for about 8 months now, and we've been together for 15 months. Sometimes I feel the relationship can wear me down. It requires constant effort. The courtship never ends in a relationship. You always must be dating and courting your woman. And you always have to keep on your toes, because it's very easy to back off and to settle back into old patterns, old bad habits, and you figure, hey, we're living together, she's not going anywhere. And then you stop doing all those things that made you successful in the first place. You start letting her walk all over you a little bit. You just figure, oh, okay, I'll just compromise. I'll go along with this one time. He says, she has issues with me visiting my parents. They happen to live a few minutes away from me, and I like to see my mom for a mere 10 minutes every day or so after work. Dude, that's fucking awesome. You love your mom. You're close to your family. That's awesome. You're lucky that you have that kind of a relationship with your mother. Nobody gets in the way of that. Don't let anybody, no chick, no friend, no job, don't let anybody get in the fucking way of that relationship, dude. If your girlfriend doesn't like it, you say, you know what, I love my mom, she and I are very close, and nothing's going to get in the way of that. You got two choices. You can either accept that I love my parents and I'm close to them, or you can find another guy who hates his family. But don't ever ask me or complain about me spending time with my mother. I'm going to go see her every day because I love her. She raised me. She brought me into this world, and we're tight. And I'm grateful that I have that kind of relationship. She ain't going to be around forever. It's rude, and it's disrespectful, and it's selfish on your part to expect me to abandon or impact my relationship with my mother. And part of this is testing. Part of this is her seeing if she can get you to do what she wants you to do, which is really against your will and what you want, which would actually have the exact opposite effect. She thinks she wants you to spend more time with her and less time with your mother, but you go and do that when it's not what you really want to do. Now you're being weak. These are the little subtle ways. It's like the analogy of the frog in the boiling hot, or the pot of water. You put a frog in a pot of boiling hot water, it jumps right out. You slowly turn up the heat, and the frog just sits there and boils to death. And that's what's going on here. You're living together, you've been together 15 months. It's slow. Over time, these things don't happen overnight. It's just slowly, just little things like this. She says she finds it strange that I have to visit my mom so often, and she suggested we make a rule where I'm allowed to visit her once every X days, for example. Girl said that to me, I'd say, don't ever bring that shit up again. That's rude, that's disrespectful, and there's absolutely no way I'm going to put a time limit or a rule on how much time I can spend with my family. That's one of the most ridiculous, unloving, unkind things I've ever heard. And if you want to continue to be in my life, don't ever fucking ask me. Don't interfere with my relationship with my family again. That is not fucking cool. He says, my response was obviously no. Good for you, dude. I shouldn't have to follow a rule about seeing my mom. Awesome. Good job. It's exactly what you should have said. I should have the freedom to see whoever I want to. Exactly. Remember what I say in my book. Women want your attention all the fucking time. When you're in a relationship, when you're living together, it's like she wants you all to herself. That's how women are. That's why they tend to do all of the pursuing, or most of the pursuing, the calling, the texting, because they want you all to themselves, because they want your love, your strength, and your presence. But you have to resist her in this particular instance, because this is important to you. And if you continue to resist her like you are doing, she'll continue to love you and want to be with you. Because deep down, she knows that's the right thing to do. Even if it's the opposite of what she thinks she wants you to do. He says, she said she doesn't like that, but will have to agree with it since she has no other choice. Exactly. Too fucking bad. Not you're going to be a dick about it, but that's family, dude. No way. He says, this hasn't been as much of an issue lately as it was many months ago. Well, that's the thing. When she senses weakness or she senses that she may be able to get you to give that part of your life up. That's why a lot of guys that get into a relationship, they give up all their hobbies, their interests. Like a guy I talked to yesterday, same thing. He's been married 15 years. He's like, he stopped hanging out with his buddies. He stopped doing all the fun things, the hunting and all that kind of stuff that he used to do with his friends. I was like, man, you need to get back out there and start living your life. That's one of the reasons why she fell in love with you. You were a well-rounded man, and you had a lot of fun things going on in your life. He continues on, but it's definitely bothered me during our relationship. Well, the good news is don't let it bother you or get butthurt over it. It's a test. Remember, women want you all to themselves. When they're in love and they're in a relationship and you're living together, they want to bet and they want to nest, they want to bond, they want to connect, and that's what she's doing. But you got to make sure that when she starts crossing your boundary, you say, that doesn't work for me. He says, I give her the absolute freedom to do whatever she enjoys, and if it doesn't harm anyone or anything, and if it isn't disrespectful towards me, obviously, which is why I want her to do the same for me. Good job. You obviously been paying attention to what you've been learning from me. He says, and yes, I've talked about all of this with her. Another issue I have with her is about money. To elaborate, the house we live in is mine. I've got a pretty hefty mortgage since I bought it many years ago, and she's currently living with me. It was her idea to move in. Nice job. He says, I didn't ask for rent, nor would I consider it. I made it clear from the beginning that it would be fair if she pays half our bills, gas, electricity, water, etc., and that's all. Well, that's good. Because at the end of the day, it's not her house yet. You're not married. Now, if you guys end up getting married, it's a different story. If you're going to pool everything, or if you're going to keep separate accounts, well, she needs to contribute and kick in some money, because once you become married, she legally owns half that house then. Even if you've already paid 50% of it off. She owns half of it because now she's your wife. He says, the last round of bills, she didn't pay her share until I brought it up with her a month later. Well, you shouldn't have waited a month to bring it up. You should have said, hey, I haven't, can I get that check from you for this month, your share of the bills? And give her the total. Again, this is the same kind of issue here. She's trying to see what she can get away with. And she might not be consciously thinking about that, but that's your job as a man, is to have a fucking spine, just like the video I talked about yesterday, and stand up for yourself. And it's good that you brought it up, but I don't like the fact that you waited a whole month. He says, I told her it makes me feel like I'm being taken advantage of, and I don't feel appreciated. I would just tell her, say, hey, look, you never gave me your money for the bills. That kind of bothers me. I shouldn't have to ask you or remind you. It's a sign of love and respect and appreciation. It kind of makes me feel like you're taking advantage of me when you just blow it off and don't do it. He says she made several excuses about why she didn't pay them and promised to pay them the next day, which she did. Well, that's a good sign. However, what bothered me is that if I don't bring it up with her, she may not have paid her share at all. Again, this is part of being a man. These are little things that happen to guys in a relationship, and they don't think it's any big deal. They just go, oh, she's my girl, we live together. Okay, yeah, well, she must have a good reason. And then 6 months later, they haven't got any money. And so now she sees you can get away with that. She gets you to stop hanging out with your family as much. And what's basically going on is you're becoming a pleaser. You're doing what you think she wants you to do in order to be happy. And in the end, she ends up leaving you. So you're doing a great job of standing up for yourself, but you always got to be on your toes. And I talk about this in my book. Women are just naturally, when they sense a weakness, they're going to exploit it. They can't help themselves. It's just the way the Creator designed them to be. They're there to test your strength, to make you grow into the ultimate man that you're capable of becoming. Remember, I say it all the time. The purpose of all relationships is you go there to give. You're there to help each other grow and become more. He says, we're both 30 years old and we both earn the same high income. She has money rolling in, and I only ever expect her to pay half the bills and take turn in who pays for the groceries. Generally, when I take her out for a fun night, I always pay, and that's okay with me. He says, to sum my relationship up with her, I feel most of the time it's great. We're both very comfortable around each other, and we just enjoy hanging out and relaxing most days during the week. She's never shown any interest in other guys since we've been dating, and she literally never keeps her eyes off me when we're together and treats me with respect. Well, that's because you stand up for yourself. But you brought up two subtle ways that she's tried to get you to compromise your values and your principles. Unfortunately, both times you've done the right thing and you've stood up for yourself, so that's good. He says, anything less and I would be out of here. Good for you. He says, I'm a good listener. I always hear what she has to say about her day after work and when we're having dinner. She told me she loves me. She told me she loves me and how we're able to do that. I seriously see myself marrying her. I just don't know how long I'm supposed to wait before I propose when she's bringing it up. I would say date, live. You've only been together 15 months, man. I would say another 15 months, and if things are still great and hunky-dory and she's all over you, and she's bringing it up, when are we going to get married? Where is this going? When are we going to get engaged? That's the appropriate time, but it's still way too early. You guys moved in together pretty quickly. So you need to slow your fucking roll, and this tells me you're kind of thinking about the future a little too much here. It's only been 15 months, dude, and you've only been living together for 8 months. It's still the honeymoon period. Take your fucking time. He says, at the end of the day, though, living de facto or married doesn't make a big difference to me, but she has mentioned she would prefer marriage because it's a sign of commitment. I guess the point of this email is to share my overall relationship with you and get your opinion on what you think about the flaws I pointed out and whether or not I should propose, if so, when. Like I said, I think you're doing fantastic, dude. Great fucking job standing up for yourself, and you need to keep doing that. And she's going to, next month, it may be another way that she tries to subtly get you to compromise your values or give up on things that are important. You don't ever fucking do that. That's why she loves you so much. That's why she's asking about marriage. So if my opinion is you've been together almost a year and a half, I would wait another year and a half and then propose. As long as her attitude stays the same, as long as you see the consistent same level of effort. But again, you got to stay on your toes, and if she doesn't give you that check, you got to remind her of it. Just write a bill out and give it to her. Say, hey, here's your portion of the utilities. And if a week goes by and she still hasn't done it, sit her down and say, look, this is rude and disrespectful. We talked about this a few months ago when you did this last time. I gave you the bill and you just haven't paid it. And I know you can afford it. I mean, you're not even paying a mortgage. So, if we're going to stay together long term, you need to do what you say you're going to do. And this really bothers me. So I want to see that you consistently make the effort. If I give you a bill for your share, I want you to pay it without any excuses. And if there's a problem, then come to me and tell me, hey, I'm short on money this month or whatever it happens to be. That's how you address it. But keep on your toes. I like what you're doing, man. You're doing great. Wait, give it another 15 months, and if things are still just as awesome as they are today and she's saying all these things, wondering when you're going to get married, then I'd say go ahead and propose then. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone, Skype, or email coaching session. You can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the Products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.